Turn up the dial, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember right. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the alley, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries live. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host, Barnaby Jones. Today's show is pre-recorded. That's right, today's show is not live in the studio. We are pre-recorded. So again, if guys, you are making comments or questions and we're ignoring them, unfortunately, that's just because we're not here to take them in person. So keep that in mind as we're going forward today. My guest has some amazing stories today. He is the first person to witness the Enfield Horror in 49 years. He also has battled a Skinwalker. So guys, that is awesome, and we're going to get into that in just a second here. But before that, if you guys have not checked out my team's work, you're missing out. Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomena and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Huyton, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Are you looking for something to listen to on your morning commute, road trip, or just hanging out? Head on over to our YouTube and check out one of our several podcasts hosted by members of the CAPS team. Topics and shows spanning everything from paranormal, UFOs, metaphysical, cryptids, and more. And if you're into spooky, check out our mini-series, Spirits of Menominee, which documents the paranormal activity of downtown Menominee, Michigan, or Spirits of Macville, where we investigate one very active location. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss a minute. That's right, guys. My team has something for everyone. We release a full-length documentary about once every 2 months, as well as a lot of other little shows that document a lot of our research and investigating. So head on over there and check it out. If you want to show your support for all things here on the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, my guest today on the show is Zachary Stamm. He is a Christian, first and foremost. He is a minister with 19 years in cryptozoology research. He is a cattle rancher, a farmer, a Sunday school teacher, a bass singer in the Crossbearers Quartet, and a 4th-generation professional wrestler. He is a local historian and the founder of the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters, established in 2015. Zach is an outdoorsman who loves to fish, hunt, and camp, and he is from the small town of Crab Orchard in Southern Illinois. He is the owner of Duke Randall Outdoors and co-founder of Fishers of the Men Ministries. All that can be found on Facebook. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Zach. Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right, Barnaby. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. I was working on doing the opening here, and you popped right up, so that worked perfect.
And I just texted you, I'm ready, let's go.
Well, that was great, man. That was great. Yeah, I thought I would get the pre-recording done out of the way for you, and there you were. So that was awesome. So, like I said, I mean, this is going to be a great show. For those who are going to be watching this, you're going to find out in about 15 to 20 minutes here that we're going to change clothes because we had some technical issues recording this the first time, and we had to re-record the opening. So we are here again. Oh man, I'm excited to talk to you again because I know where this is going. But so first off, I want to talk to you because we're going to cover some of the same stuff we already did here, obviously. So can you give me just a background of, we talked about you being a 4th-generation wrestler. And I think this is really cool. And I still want to talk about this because, with a lot of these people that are doing Bigfoot research, there's a lot of pro wrestling fans. And I really interested in the 4th-generation thing and your great grandfather and grandfather stuff, because that is really cool because it's part of the history of pro wrestling. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Like I said before, I am a 4th-generation professional wrestler. Unfortunately, my career got cut short here recently. I sustained a neck injury outside of the rings that's forced me to retire. But I'll go back to the where it all started back in the Depression era. my great grandfather, Henry Harness, he was a member of the Common Corps of Engineers, but on the side, for a little side hustle, he boxed in the Golden Gloves, and he was a catch wrestler for carnivals and stuff. And little tidbit about him, anybody has ever heard of Giant City Park here in Southern Illinois, in Jackson County, Illinois, he was with the Common Corps of Engineers that actually cut the roads going through that park. So there's a little inside input on that. And then it's my grandpa, D. Sterick. He was worked in Ford Garage, and then on the side he would go and do carnival wrestling back in the late 50s, early 60s. And back then they would go and they'd have the guys come out and they'd say, we have a cash prize for whoever can last 3 to 5 minutes with our wrestler or can beat him. And my grandpa was that wrestler because he was the youngest out of 4 boys. So, and his dad was in World War I. He had an older brother that was in World War II. And his second oldest brother, Bill, was in Korea. So he knew how to fight. And so grandpa told me this story one time that they did the cash prize match, and this one big corn-fed colossus of a man wearing bib overalls, he came up and he said, I'll fight him. And my grandpa was like 5'10", 6 foot. Sorry, my dog just walked in. And,
I was gonna say the door behind you literally just swung open all nonchalantly, and no one walked through. And I was gonna say, let's talk about that next.
No. It was my black Labrador Jackson just coming to say hi and keep me a little company. But this guy come in the ring, and Grandpa locked up with him collar and elbow, and the guy locked up with Grandpa, and that's where they stayed for the next 3 to 5 minutes. And literally they did not move. He couldn't move Paul, and Paul couldn't move him. So they ended up calling it a draw, and they split the money.
That's awesome.
And then eventually they he ended up retiring and going to work in the mines. And he just did that really just to go and help make money, because back when him and my grandmother got married back in 58, they didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. They were poor. And then my mother, she got involved in the business back in the 80s. And she started off as the ticket girl, working the front door, taking the tickets. Then she went to wardrobe and helping the guys get their gear that they wore out to the ring back to the locker room. And then she actually wrestled for none other than the maestro, Angelo Poffo, for ICW. And she knew all the wrestlers. She actually knew Andre. And she told me a story one time, Piper and her, they were sitting at the bar, and whenever Andre came to town, he always made himself my mother's personal bodyguard. And Piper was giving my mom all kinds of crap at the bar, and here come big Andre lumbering in. And he reached down, palmed Piper by the head, picked him up, spun him around, and sat him back on his bar stool. And he says, you leave Marlene alone. You leave her alone, or I will hurt you. And she knew folks like Sergeant Slaughter. She knew the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov. Sorry about that.
Right.
And they started off just doing that. And stay out of here, Jackson. And then I got involved in professional wrestling in 2019. Starting off.
The ghost is back.
He's back, Jackson. He's a rescue, and I'll tell you the story is that he was rescued. He has really severe separation anxiety, and whenever nobody's in the room with him, he throws a fit. So he's going to hang out with me for a little bit.
That's fine.
So then I started off growing up, my family didn't want me to be a part of professional wrestling or even watch wrestling, because they're like, you're too big and you might hurt somebody, because I don't know my own strength. And me and my brother, we would always go and wrestle and watch the fights on television. So we're like, you know what, when mom and dad and grandma and grandpa ain't watching, why don't we just go ahead and watch the fights ourselves? And we would actually tape the fights and watch them at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then we had the bright idea to actually start our own little backyard wrestling federation, and we called it Dungeon Championship Wrestling. And it really, at first, it wasn't even outside. It was in my grandparents' basement on a concrete floor with laminate flooring over the top, about a ½ inch of foam rubber and a piece of carpet. And that was our ring. We didn't have kendo sticks. We had PVC pipes. We didn't have chairs. We had cookie sheets and 50-gallon tote lids. And then we didn't have an announce table. We had a piano bench. We didn't have a top rope. We had a couch. So we made do with what we had. And we started off doing that with just a little Samsung flip phone that we'd sit on the piano to where we would go and actually film our matches. Will you settle down? You don't have to be the center of attention on the show, Jackson. He's a little attention hog. But go lay down. Go lay down. All right, go lay down. Go on. And okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, my dog. But we started doing that, and then we had our own little group where we would actually book our own matches, where we would go and had our local friends. We had 2 friends of ours that moved here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Yetzer brothers, and we called them the Canadian Destroyers. And then there was the Ray family, and there was the oldest sister and the 2 younger brothers. The oldest sister, we called her Brittany Bombshell. And then there was the middle brother, Zach, and we called him Ray's Domination. And then his little brother, Hayden, we called the Enigma, and they made up the Ray brothers. And me and my brother, he was the Natural, Jesse James, and I was known as the KO Specialist, the Hard Rock. And we called ourselves the Mean Street Posse. And we had a lot of good tag team matches with them guys. And then there was the Clark family, Lily and her 2 brothers, Caleb and Eli. And Lily was Blackthorn, this kind of a gothic vampire gimmick that we paired her with. And she did pretty good with that. And then there was her brothers, and we called them the Wild Boys. And they were basically kind of like these feral Appalachian hillbilly kind of wrestlers. And we had some good matches with them. And the thing is, I believe they were kind of the precursor for the Usos, because they were jumping off everything. And then after a while, they were telling us, take it outside. And we made our own ring outside in the backyard. We didn't have no mat or anything. We were bumping on hard dirt. And it was 4 metal deck chairs that we took, clothesline and tie out cables that you tie dogs out on. That was our ropes. And we had a little old charcoal grill with a metal pole that we beat. That was our ring bell. And then we had, between the shed and the garage, there was these extension cords going across, because out in the shed was my stepdad's carpentry shop, and we'd hang bed sheets across that. That was our entranceway. And we had a little boom box with a whole, you remember the old school book of CDs that you had. Mm-hmm. And we had somebody there swapping out CDs and going to the tracks. And that's how we had our entrance music. And we had another boom box where we'd actually go and put in those cassettes that you could actually record audio with, on that were on certain boombox that had the record feature. And we would actually record our actual matches play by play. And you could actually hear we were just laying it in, just sounded like 2 heavyweight MMA fighters, just meat sacks, just hitting each other. And we had a lot of fun with that. And then I got into professional wrestling back in 2009 is whenever I found out about the indie scene. And it was All-American Pro Wrestling at Rent One Park, the home of the Southern Illinois Miners, the baseball team. And the guy that caught my eye was Edmund Livewire McGuire, Mr. Electricity, who's a good friend of mine now. And he's the one that made me want to be a professional wrestler. And I didn't see him for 10 years after that. He kind of moved away and got out of professional wrestling, and he became a mortician. And no, he's not doing the Undertaker gimmick either. He's unofficially retired, as he says. He said he hasn't hung the boots up yet. And I'm like, yeah, but you ain't wrestled in 3 years, boss. And I found Stride Professional Wrestling, which was a company that was created by none other than H2KO Heath Hatton. And Heath Hatton actually wrestled here 12 years ago. He wrestled Adam Pearce for the NWA Heavyweight Championship whenever on his last title run while he was facing Colt Cabana. And Heath Hatton, he's wrestled for Ring of Honor, TNA, NWA, and WWE, and he's wrestled over in Ireland and the UK and Germany, and he was actually heavyweight champion of Ireland as a whole for about 3 weeks. And I asked him, I'm like, well, I've always been interested in being a wrestler. And he said, well, I got my own academy here, and we meet on Tuesdays and Thursday nights and train. Sign me up. I'm in. And I went in there, and the hardest thing for me was learning how to bump. And first time I took a bump, it looked like a big Irish redwood falling over. It just looked like a tree falling over instead of the snap. I just fell straight back, boom, knocked myself out. And then whenever I knocked myself out and they brought me back to, and they're like, all right, you ain't doing bumps no more tonight. But I come up with it because for a while I was being known as the outlaw, Zach Sterick, being my real name, Zach, and Sterick was my grandfather's last name. Oh. And then one night, it was our anniversary show called Strideversary, and it was basically our WrestleMania. And I'm refereeing a match tonight, and I look at the announcer, Kevin Huntsberger, who actually used to be a news anchor for WSIL, and he was our announcer from the inception of the company up until the company folded up last year. And I said, don't call me by my real name. Call me Duke Randall. And the way I got the name Duke Randall was I paired up my two favorite cowboys, John Wayne, the Duke, and then Steve McQueen's Josh Randall from Wanted, Dead or Alive. And they were trying to come up with a gimmick for me even before I got into professional wrestling. Because I'm a real cowboy. Grew up on a cattle ranch, been running cattle all my life. And that's just who I was. So they always say the best gimmicks are one that is really you, just turned up to 11. And so we threw around the name. Me and my sister and my best friend, we sat around the kitchen table one night just throwing around names, and my sister wanted to call me Texas Red, and I said no, because that was the Undertaker's gimmick whenever he wrestled for World Class Championship Wrestling for the Von Erichs. I said I'm not going to do that. And then they called me Southern Outlaw. And I'm like, but I don't have much of a Southern accent. I don't know nothing about the culture in the South to go and equate it so that way it come out natural. And then we come up with Old School Outlaw because I love old school professional wrestling. I don't like all this flippy choreographed tumbling, as Lou Thez would call it nowadays. That, you know, I like two guys going in there and telling a story and not doing anything for likes and views, which is what professional wrestling has turned into, is just for likes and views anymore. And it sucks, just to be honest with you. I can't even watch professional wrestling on TV like AEW, WWE, Japan. The only one I can really watch is Ring of Honor and Japan. Any other ones, literally, it makes me physically want to puke. And so we went with Old School Outlaw, and then Duke Randall came along in March of 2020, and it was the show. Our show for Stradiversary was lit the Saturday before the shutdown, the nationwide shutdown happened for COVID, and Duke Randall was born.
Very cool. Awesome. That was awesome. Like, I think, you know, like you talk about your grandfather and your great grandfather wrestling, you know, it's really cool because a lot of people don't realize that professional wrestling as we know it now started in carnivals. It
Yeah.
was like this bear wrestling or the you know, the strongman stuff of, you know, beat the locals and stuff. And it's really cool that, you know, like yourself and, you know, that we carry on the tradition and help bring that story along. So,
I mean, you look at wrestlers like Harley Race. He started wrestling whenever he was a teenager. He wasn't even 18 yet. And they were putting him out there doing those kind of prize matches and everything. And Fit Fenley, he was 13 years old wrestling as young Apollo in Ireland, and he had a toilet brush on his head and beer cans on his vest. And then William Regal, Stephen Regal, he started in the UK, and he was 16 years old, and he was wrestling 3 or 4 matches a day in prize matches, and that's how he got broke into the business.
Wow, that's awesome. So, pro wrestling and monster hunting. That's awesome. I mean, these things kind of, I mean, obviously go together. So you're the founder of Southern Illinois Monster Hunters. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the group and how that got started?
Okay, well, what got me started, because it predates the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters by years, it was actually a decade almost. And I had my first encounter whenever I was 9 years old in 2004 with Bigfoot in Randolph County, Illinois. Me and my dad had just come home from a Cardinals baseball game in St. Louis, and it was right around midnight, 1 o'clock, because we rode the Amtrak up to St. Louis from Belleville, Illinois. And we're in the garage. I was up at my dad's on visitation, and we lived with my grandpa Leroy at the time. And we're going inside the house, and it had a built-on garage onto the house where you could go in the back door of the garage and go in through the house, through the door that goes into the house to the garage. And it's just eerily silent outside. And then Dad's fiddling with the keys, trying to unlock the door. And coyotes outside just start howling and yipping like crazy, like they have something's jumped them up. And next thing you know, you hear this yell / scream / wail that just comes out of this cornfield that's literally not even 50 yards behind the house. And the only thing I could equate it to is the Ohio moaning call that Matt Moneymaker and the BFRO actually recorded back in '94. But I didn't put 2 and 2 together till 10 years later. And what it was, even to this day, it's been 20 years since I had that encounter. I'm 29 years old now. I can still remember that sound, and I can still remember it had such power in the decibels and the voice of this creature that it was making the windows rattle inside the window pane. You could hear them just rattling like crazy, like there was an earthquake going on. And cut to 10 years later, I had gone and watched whatever I could about cryptozoology, cryptid creatures, trying to figure out what it was that I had heard. And then in 2014, 2015, I was scrolling the web and everything, and I was looking for just Bigfoot stuff and everything, just doing my own research. And leading up to that, I had actually gone and, I'd done field research with my brother, my little brother, Josh. We were the Southern Illinois Squatch Hunters is what we called ourselves, just in passing as a joke and everything. So that way, mainly because it's kind of looked down on in this area. So that way folks would actually go and leave us alone and not bother us, because if people saw something like that as a joke. And I found the Ohio moaning call on to, just purely by chance. And I played it back. Sitting in my dad's office, and I roll out the door to the hallway in the roller chair. And I said, "Dad, you need to come in here and listen to this." And we played it back, and I said, "What's that sound like to you?" And he said, "That sounds like what we heard," because we still would talk about it to that day. And I said, he goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Dad, that's supposed to be what a Bigfoot sounds like." And that's how the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters got started. It started off as a mission to find closure in what I had actually encountered as a child. And it snowballed there to prove that Bigfoot and other cryptids do exist in Southern Illinois, and not just in Southern Illinois, around the world, because it's not just in the Pacific Northwest or the Himalayas, mountains in Asia, or in Loch Ness in Scotland. It's usually going to be right outside your back door. And research, and some folks that I'd known all my life and everything, and didn't know they had a genuine day our senior year. And they said, "If you're serious about this, we'd actually like to come on board and help, because we actually have genuine interest in this." And that was my cousin John and my best friend Gunner that came on. And then after we graduated high school, some more kids from our school actually reached out to us wanting to join the team. And starting off, it was me and my brother, and then Gunner, who we called Doc, because he is a doctor. He's a doctor in physical therapy. Then there was John. He was our who we called Trapper John, because during off season of regular firearm hunting, he's actually a fur trapper. And then there was Keegan, who we called Rooster, just because he was always up at the butt crack of dawn and he liked to talk. And then there was Holmes, Zach Holmes, that we called Little Bear. And I give him that name because he reminds me of a bear cub. He's always starting trouble and always finding himself getting into trouble. So we called him Little Bear. And then there was Josh Tanner, who we called Lizard Man, because he had what's the term I'm looking for? He had a fascination with reptiles. And so we called him Lizard Man. And then there was Amos Beasley, who we called in high school. We called him Moose because he's 6'4" and about 260 pounds. And he was our power forward on the basketball team. And they're like, "Why do you call him Moose?" And I said, "Because if you got the ball and he sees you, you either give it to him or he's going to run your butt over." And that was the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters as we started off with. And we've grown in numbers, and we've lost a few members that left on their own accord. But now, as the Monster Hunters stand, it's still me and Doc and Little Bear. And then we have Ben Bishop, who I found out purely by chance that we're actually distant cousins. And he's a professional wrestler. He wrestles as String Bean, but on the team we call him Butterbean. Then that was a past member's wife that gave him that nickname, because she always forgot his name was String Bean, and they're from Louisiana. She goes, "Hey, you talking to Butterbean?" So the name kind of stuck. And then there's one of the kids that was actually my protege. He was one of my students whenever I started mentoring him in cryptozoology. He showed me what it takes to be a cryptozoologist, because he was asked, "Well, where do I start?" And I said, "I started in books. I got some books if you want to read them." "Okay, give me what you got." And I'd give him like maybe 2 or 3 books at a time, and come 7 days later, he's like, "All right, I'm done. You got any more?" And he just kept reading and reading and reading and reading. And now I ended up coaching him in baseball. And whenever I called in baseball as their coach, I always called the players Buck Privates. And so we call him Private Powell. He's actually one of the 3 members of the team that actually has got a little pull in our team, because there's 3 of us that are kind of like the team leaders. And then there is a new member now that just lives 30 minutes down the road from me that actually had his own group called Southern Illinois Investigators of Native American Creatures. And they folded up right whenever COVID hit. And I'd known him for a long time on Facebook, but I didn't know it was him until I met him in person here this past November. And at of all things, a Thanksgiving party. And he come on board and he showed his true colors. Literally, he wasn't even in our ranks. His probation period hadn't even been going a week. We got handed a case. He goes, "I'll take it." And he took off and he ran with it, and he closed the case himself because he just has that drive. And I'm very nitpicky whenever it comes to choosing who I let to be on the team, because I grill them just like a job interview. What do you bring to the crew, and why should I let you on my team? And in a year from now, are you actually going to be doing what you're telling me, or are you going to be just sitting there collecting dust and not doing anything? Because I had a couple members do that in the past. And we initiated him into the team because we have our own code and bylaws now. We have an oath that we keep, and we give him the nickname Youngblood because he's the youngest on the team. He's 24 years old. So we call him Youngblood. And that's the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters as we are now. And we've investigated Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, some paranormal. We've investigated dogman reports. We've actually found a lot that's happened here since our inception back in 2015, that we've picked up more in the last 2-3 years than we had in our first 6 or 7. And we're really picking up steam. And we got our name out there and everything, and got picked up for radio and local events and everything. We never paid off anybody to do anything. Have that, not to pat myself on the back or anything, but that's how we got to where we are today, is through hard work. We didn't get a TV deal, even though we've actually been offered television deals to actually do Discovery Channel and Travel Channel, and I turned them down because all they wanted was me. And I said, nope. If you want me, my team comes with me. I don't go nowhere without my team, and they're all if you're going to pay us, you're going to pay us the same amount. Nobody's making any more or less than the other guy, because we see each other as equals. And you see most teams, they're all a bunch of yes men to the guy in charge. I don't like that. We'll sit there and we'll bicker and argue for hours on whether or not if we agree or disagree on something, and whether or not if it's a plausible theory, or if anything, some members of my team believe that, for example, Bigfoot, they believe that it's a spiritual entity. Some say it's an alien. I believe it's an undiscovered great ape. But that's what makes a good team, because if you're going to have a good team, you got to have people that can cover every single one of those bases that you're going to need, whether it's research, putting boots on the ground, having tech, being tech savvy, maybe if it comes down to it, being a good tracker or trapper, because we would rather trap one of these creatures to prove they exist and have a live organism instead of a body. Mm-hmm. We are not pro-kill. We'll only kill one of these creatures if it's in self-defense and our life depends on it. Because, for example, this guy's got a knife on you. You're not going to sit there and let him just stab you and cut you up, turn you into Swiss cheese. No, you're going to pull out a pistol, pow, shoot him. You ain't going to sit there and take it. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes up the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters. We've got field investigators. We've got folks in Native American research. We've got folks that are tech savvy, some that are audio analysts and photographers and photograph analysts. We've got folks that are good at tracking and trapping, and we're all outdoorsmen. We're all hunters. And not only that, we're all Christians, and we're a faith and God centered and a faith-based team. And We're not really out there. We're not out there to go and make a big hullabaloo and get all eyes on us. We're just out there to help people because we know how some of these people that come to us to go and investigate their cases, they're first time listeners, first time callers, basically. You want to go and actually be able to trust who you're dealing with. That's not going to mock you, not exploit you, and not make fun of you. You want to be able to trust these folks. And well, that's all we are. We're all just a bunch of down home dumb hicks is what we are. We're a bunch of rednecks from podunk nowhere in the middle of nowhere, USA. And he's the only one. Then we're not very smart. It's like I tell everybody, I'm a C+ man, which means I'm right in the middle. There's a bunch of people that's smarter than me, but I'm smarter than the rest of you. And, we go and you see some groups and everything, and I ain't throwing shade at them or anything, but like the BFRO, and you'll hear reports of them. They'll go in, find a footprint, and they leave. We go in on a case. We keep going until we find what we're looking for, and we don't charge these people a dime. We're doing this out of our own pockets.
You guys actually have a documentary out as well that you were part of and some research. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, of course. Yes, the Shawnee Sasquatch hunt for Shawnee Sasquatch. This was actually about a 7 or 8 year project in the making to actually get this done. The gentleman there with the beard is an acquaintance of mine and a colleague, Daniel Benoit. And we always talked about, actually getting and doing actual research in each other's areas. Well, I'd gone to Virginia to speak at his conference here in the past, and we'd always do a night hike in a known Bigfoot area of sightings. And I said, all right, your turn to return the favor. We're having our annual camp out on the weekend of my birthday, so you better come on out. Okay, I'll be there. And then I put it out on our Facebook page that we're having our annual camp out, and everybody's welcome. All I say is, you bring your own stuff and you be responsible for your own eats and your shelter and stuff. But other than that, we don't turn nobody away. And a filmmaker who actually he was the one that produced the first documentary I was ever in, the creature from Big Muddy, an Illinois Bigfoot legend, Joe Turry. And I told him he was interested in coming camping with me because we've turned into really great friends. And I said, well, we're going camping. You come? And he goes, yep. And then he goes, all right, I'll see you there. And then about a week later, he messages me and he says, how would you go and would you be opposed to me coming and filming this expedition? I'm like, fine by me. I don't care. So he comes down with all of his cameras and everything, and he interviews everybody you see on the cover there that was there, because that's really all that turned out, other than a few other attendees that didn't want to be seen on camera. And literally, we were back up in a place in the Shawnee National Forest called No Man's Land, and you have to go across 4 creeks and up a very rutted out and narrow logging road just to get back to where we were. And if you have a 4x4, you better have it gunned to the floor to get through there. Otherwise, you're swamped. And, but yeah, Joe said, come out there with all his camera equipment, and he filmed it. And I just thought he was going to film it for like B-roll for like other projects he had going and have us as credited characters. No, he was actually filming it for an actual documentary that he was going to release for us as a favor to me, which I never asked for. And I asked him, I'm like, why are you doing this for me, Joe? And he goes, because you got Creature from Big Muddy more eyes on it than anybody else that starred in it. That documentary has been seen in like last time he told me the stats on it for Creature of Big Muddy has been seen 10 million times in 13 different countries and in 5 different languages.
I think you can watch that on Tubi.
Yep,
it's
Tubi TV.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first introduction into the scene of being in documentaries and everything. And this one here, we filmed it. Joe was only there to film it for the first day. The back 2 days, me and Benoit filmed it. I filmed it with this, and he filmed it with his camcorder, his handheld video camera. And yeah, you see up to the second chapter, that's all Joe. The second and the third chapter is all us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no expert whenever it comes to filmography or anything. I'm barely even lucky if I know how to even edit with my phone. I'm self-taught. I never took a class. But yeah, in Hunt for Shawnee Sasquatch, we actually set eyes. 3 of us did at the same time, set eyes on two creatures that was down in the valley looking up at us, hiding behind trees and rocks. And Stacy, the older gentleman there, Stacy Coughlin, he's a former member of the team, and now he's head over cryptid CSI Louisiana. And he does a lot of energy work. He's a shaman, and he was our occult researcher. So if anything you need to know about voodoo, hoodoo, black magic, it was him. And he came out with a pair of dowsing rods, copper dowsing rods, and a little crystal on the end of a chain that he used for a pendulum. And he did this technique called map dowsing, and he would answer yes or no, ask yes or no questions. And depending on which way that pendulum spun was a yes or a no. And he would go and focus on reading energy with his dowsing rods, but he would go and do the same thing with the dowsing rods. And he's like a bloodhound with just one of those things. Whichever way that thing's pointing, he's going. And with his dowsing techniques, we found on a map, because he'll print out a full scale map off of GPS or Google Maps, and he'll bring them with him from Louisiana. And we actually found a trail that we actually found tracks on, not too far from our camp. And there was different size footprints on this trackway that we found. And I said, I don't know. I looked at them and I said, you think there may be more than one of these things that we're chasing? Stacy says, let me ask my pendulum. And he says that he's got a fairy trapped inside this pendulum. That's what makes this pendulum work. And I believe him. There's a lot of unexplained things out there in this world that I don't even know. I run purely on faith as a minister. But yeah, I believe there's a lot of things out there that can actually help us. And, if it works, we put it in our toolbox and we use it. He asked it, he started going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And the whole time that pendulum is spinning in a clockwise circle, which means yes. And then he got to 6 and it stopped and started spinning the other way. He said, so there's 5 of them in this family unit. And he said, how many adults? And this thing just sat stationary. He said 1, and it started spinning clockwise. 2 adults, 3 adults, and he started spinning counterclockwise. He goes, so 2 adults, and he said, and 3 young ones, and it stopped spinning clockwise and just started spinning clockwise again, which was freaky to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came out, and then there was Ben, the gentleman with the beanie on in the background of the cover. That's my cousin. That's the one we call Butterbean, and he's our tracker for the team. And we actually found Ben and Stacy. They found it, and Daniel and Jessica, they split off, and Ben went with Stacy, and Jessica went with Daniel. They went totally different directions, and we ended up finding where their foot trail had gone and looped around behind our camp. and Stacy found what we believed to be a marker that actually made it in the film, and it was a forked branch that was shoved down in the ground. And it took Ben and Stacy to put both of them to pull this thing out, I think they said. And this thing was about 4 or 5 feet long, shoved down in the ground.
Wow.
And Daniel and Jessica, they actually found a tree structure, looked like a giant teepee that had been built. And I actually went inside of it, and I'm 5'9", and this thing was clearing my head by about another 6 inches. And it was in a straight line from where that forked branch was stuck in the ground.
Wow. That's awesome.
And evidently this tree structure wasn't that old, because they just done like a controlled burn there in the last couple of weeks. And the branches that was making up this tree structure, they were all fresh. There was no burn marks, no ash, no scorch on them at all.
Wow.
And the controlled burn hadn't been too long ago, because some of the ground was still smoldering. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then at the end, it was the last night from when we filmed the night hunt, before we all went home the next day. Daniel was just filming with his flare, his night vision. Not his night vision, that's his IR. His flare, his thermal.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually got what we believe he caught a Bigfoot on flare 50 feet away from camp.
Wow.
And it was crouched down on its haunches, like how a gorilla will sit down on its haunches and squat.
Very cool. That's all in the documentary?
Yeah, it's all in documentary.
Wow. That's awesome. Tell people how they can get a copy of that.
You go on Facebook to hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch, or you can contact the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters Facebook page to order a copy. It's $20 a copy, or if you want to order one as a gift for somebody, it's 2 for $30. And it costs $5 shipping for the copy.
Awesome. Very cool.
And I take PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. So I've got pretty much everybody covered on the major money handling platforms.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, you have had some amazing encounters. You have been one of the first people in a very, very long time to see the Enfield Horror. Mm-hmm. And you have had a very interesting encounter with a Skinwalker as well. So we are going to get to that right after the break here, and a quick wardrobe change. Mm-hmm. And we'll be right back.
It's getting hot.
Hanger One Publishing. Books that explore the unknown.
They're after my story.
Legends leap off the pages of our books.
You think you're the only one? They're under my tail too.
From UFOs to cryptids, Bigfoot and beyond.
Who's behind all this?
Hanger One Publishing, where every legend is revealed.
It's Hanger One Publishing. They're unraveling all of our mysteries.
Dive in. Real videos, sights, and sounds with our immersive book technology.
I guess our secrets are out now.
But in the best possible way.
From Bigfoot tracks to galactic trails, we cover it all.
We should get out of here before it's too late.
You're right, let's plan.
Escaping reality? Dive into ours. Hanger One Publishing, revealing the universe's best-kept secrets, one book at a time.
All right, there we go. We had to take a quick break there for some technical difficulties. It seems like you were saying whenever you bring up this story, everything kind of goes all wonky, and our whole
Mhm.
show just basically shut down. I had the wrong camera was up and all kinds of stuff. So we are back here. This is awesome that we did this pre-recorded, because if this was live, this would have been an absolute mess. All right, so you said you have encountered a Skinwalker and the
No,
Enfield Horror.
I've encountered the Enfield monster, but I fought a Skinwalker.
Wow, awesome. Well, I assume that's a very terrifying story, but if you're willing to share it, let's start with the Skinwalker.
I'm very, very comfortable with sharing it and everything. And well, I'll start off how it started. I was on a podcast a couple weeks before that with my buddies Stacy and Gail, that were their former members of my team, and one of the guys, Joey Paranormal, brought up the Skinwalker. And as soon as we heard that word, all three of us shut up. We started shaking our heads. No, we weren't going to talk about it. And he was so persistent about it. And Gail is Cherokee and Scandinavian, and his grandmother was 100% Cherokee woman. And he said, if I talked about that, she would slap me. You're not supposed to talk about them because it's like a moth to a flame. And of course, I was brash back then. I'd talk about anything, but I'm Shawnee. I'm a 10% Shawnee Indian. And I may not look of it because I'm a redhead. I got Irish in me, sue me. But I I talked about it thinking I wouldn't attract nothing. But then Gail chimed in because Gail was our security our security guy, and he was our enforcer. He shut it down. He goes, all I'm going to say is you don't want to talk about them or even say their name because it attracts them, like you might as well say Voldemort.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple days after that, he started noticing some weird stuff around his house and down around where he worked along the Mississippi River. And he sent me a picture, and he called me one day while he was at work, and he says, I think we got a problem. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you know how that kid brought up about the Skinwalker on that show the other night? And we all shut up, and he was persistent about it, and I shut him down. And I said, yeah. He goes, me shutting him down talking about it, I think brought one on me. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He goes, I got to fight this thing. That's the only way to exercise them is to face off with one in hand-to-hand combat and either kill it or make it submit. And I'm like, well, is there anything I need to do? You want me to come help you fight this thing? He goes, I got to do this by myself. And he said it was an armadillo because he sent me a picture down there by where he worked on the river was these big grain silos. And he sent me a picture of this armadillo. And this armadillo was right out front of this grain silo. And I'm not kidding. This armadillo was the size of a beach ball. Every bit the size of a beach ball. Biggest armadillo I ever seen. And he called this thing out. And he faced off with this thing. He faced it in the ways of his ancestors. And he said it was whenever it came into the medicine circle that he made, it was an old man. And he said its eyes were black as coal. And he said it was an old man that just loved to fight. And he fought this thing and made it submit. And he called me the next day on video chat. We had a team meeting over it. And he lifted up his shirt, and his whole chest and his ribs was black and purple from where this thing had tried to cave his ribs in. And then he told me privately that the coyote was there. And the coyote is a Native American deity. And he said, look, he was dressed in a suit. And he said, what are you doing here? And the coyote says, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to test the Irishman. There's only two of us in the team at that time that were Irish. It was me and Stacy. But only one of us had Native American blood in us, and that was me. And sure enough, after he told me that, we started finding a lot of stuff that was a little weird around the farm. We would find gates left open that had locks on them, and nobody had keys to them but me and my grandpa. And grandpa was a stickler about leaving gates open because of his cattle. We'd find gates open. We would go in machinery, it'd quit working, and then we started losing livestock. And these cattle that were perfectly healthy, we had just vaccinated a week before, we found them laying dead in the woods. And I said, I know what I got to do, but I don't know what to do. So Gail walked me through it. And a friend of mine who is a Cherokee and Shawnee descent, William Nighthawk out in Virginia, I called him, and he's an elder for his tribe. And I told him what's going on. And I said, William, I don't know what to do. He gave me a long list of stuff that I needed for the ceremony and how to initiate for the ceremony to happen. I had to go into the woods that I was going to fight this thing and lay down the challenge and the ground rules of how it was going to go. And I said, no magic, 2 men facing off with each other, hand-to-hand combat. I said, you bring your knife, I'll bring mine. And the last man breathing walks away. And I went and I got tiki torches because I had to have some kind of fire at both at the north, south, east, and west points of the compass for my medicine circle. And then I had to have representations of the 4 elements of earth, fire, air, and water at the northeast and northwest, southeast, and southwest of the medicine circle. And I had to have fire at one corner, water at one corner, air at one corner, and earth at one corner, so that way it would cancel out any kind of magic that would be coming inside the medicine circle. And then I took salt. You find it in the paranormal community. Salt is not just for the Winchester boys. It's a powerful weapon in spiritual combat. And I went and I smudged the circle with my stick of sage, and I took my hawk feathers because the hawk, the red-tailed hawk, is sort of my Native American zodiac, and it's sort of like my spirit guide. And I blessed myself with and smudged myself with the smudge sticks, smudged every inch of that circle, and I made a campfire in the middle of that circle. And I took that smudge stick and I brought an ammo box. So I brought all of the stuff in. And I set it in that ammo box, that smudge bundle, like it was an incense burner. Let it just permeate the air, cleanse it. And I started taking the salt around the circle. And it was a pretty good sized circle. It was maybe about 10 foot from the very center where the fire was. And right as I got near the end of making the full circle with the salt, I just felt like evil in the air. And just imagine the most humid day you could think of on the hottest day of the year. And then put 100-pound rucksack on your back. And you haven't had water for 3 days. That's the feeling I got whenever I felt that. And I turned around and there he was in human form. And it was a young Native American man that just, it just had the look of evil on his face. And his eyes were just black pits. You could feel the evil coming through his eyes. I took my hatchet that I used to split the wood. I had it in the little hatchet holder on my belt, threw it outside the circle, pulled my knife out of my boot, and I had a crucifix around my wrist because Gail said, don't wear it around your neck because if the Skinwalker gets a hold of it, he'll choke you with it. So I wore it around my wrist. I actually went to my church and I had my knife and my crucifix blessed. And I told him, and even before that, I was scared. I had my war paint on of the Shawnee tribe, which was my whole face covered in red, black across my eyes, and then 3 finger marks coming down the side of my cheeks and a black line across my top lip. That was the war paint of my ancestors. And it was customary for the wife or the mother of the brave that was going to face off with the Skinwalker to do their face paint. My mother did it, and the whole time I was crying. I told her, I said, Mom, I'm scared to death. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she took out her anointing oil, or virgin olive oil that she uses for anointing, and she anointed my forehead and prayed over me. And I couldn't go in with any kind of technology. So what I did was I told my team, I said, and I dropped a pin on where my truck was. I said, if you don't hear from me by sunrise, start looking for me here, because if you lose it to a Skinwalker, they bury you the next day. And I said, look for me right here. And I made 4 videos about 2 minutes long each to my fiance, to my mother and my family, to my team, and to my church. And basically I was given my last will and testament, and I sent it to everybody. Left the phone in the truck. I lit my torch and I walked back in and set up the medicine circle. Cut to whenever the Skinwalker is right across from me. I said, are we going to stand around all night, or are we going to fight? Because I'm ready to fight. And he come diving over the fire and caught me and took me to the ground. Well, being growing up on a farm and wrestling calves to band them and vaccinate them in an open field, I've learned how to fight and all of that. I grew up fighting in school. My granddad, who was a wrestler, he said, you get in a fight, don't fight fair, fight to win. And I was beating him across the back of the neck, biting him. I was gouging in his eyes, anything I could to try and get a hold on him. Now, finally, I broke his hold, and I put him in a double wrist lock, and I put his arm behind him, and then I spun around, and I got up to where I could put my knee on the back of his neck, and I pulled his arm up to where I can get him in like a standing arm bar. And I pulled my knife out of my boot, and I stuck it to his throat. And I said, you tell me what your name is, because the only way to have power over a Skinwalker is to know what their name is. And you have to force them to tell it to you. And you cannot write it down. You cannot tell anybody. That's something you got to take to your grave. Otherwise, they'll come back after you if you tell what their name is. And I stuck that knife into the side of his neck. I didn't stab him, but I stuck it in there. I said, you tell me what your name is, or I'm going to cut your throat out. He said, I'll never tell. I cranked on his arm a little bit more to the point I started hearing the ligaments breaking. He started screaming, and I hollered, you tell me what your name is. I command you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And he told me his name. I said, you swear that's your name? He said, I swear by the Christian God, that's my name. I said, don't come back. You leave me, my family, my friends. You leave my land, and you never come back. Swear to it. He said, I swear by the Christian God. And I turned him loose. And as he walked around the other side of the fire, he was holding his arm. And I watched a man right before my very eyes melt into the form of a groundhog and limp off. And then not 5 minutes later, I'm collecting myself, and it started to rain. And you could feel the evil just leave the air, like it was cleansed by the rain.
Wow, that is an incredible story. I mean, I have seen some weird things. I've done some weird things, on that. And whenever I hear stuff like this, like there's people out there shaking their heads and, saying this is all a bunch of, hooey and made up and stuff. But man, you don't know. Like I wasn't there. I was not in your shoes, and I can imagine, the fear, like you said, going through you having to face something like that. And that's insane. That's so intense. And I don't know. The world is a stranger place than any of us really know. And who's to say what's really out there and what's going on. But that's an amazing story, man.
I still have nightmares about it, but talking about it, knowing that I have this power over this Skinwalker, knowing his name, I can talk more freely about it. And not only that, I am protected by God Almighty. I'm protected by the Master and Jesus Christ. I am more comfortable talking about it. And Now I'm not very brash. I watch what I say. I don't go and talk freely about a lot of things except whenever I'm really comfortable talking about it. I don't act like I know everything. I go and I keep my mouth. It's like my grandpa always said when he was alive. He said, "You got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth," which is saying you should look and listen twice as much as you talk. So keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut.
That's some good advice right there. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh man. That's an incredible story, man. Incredible. So you had another story though. You had the Enfield Horror story. You said you were one of the first people to see it since the original sighting. Tell us what happened.
I was the first person to see it in 49 years. It was back whenever I first started working for the company I work for now. And I worked on the Mississippi River at the time, and it was supposed to rain, and I was driving an hour and a half, and if it rained, they wouldn't call me in. So I had a lot of free days in early spring. And I said, well, if it's going to rain tomorrow, I'm not going to come into work. And they said, no, you take the day off, do whatever you want. I said, all right, I'll see you guys Thursday. I'm going fishing tonight. And I drove from southwestern Illinois up to the northern part of the state along the Wabash River, where Indiana and Illinois is, along the Wabash River. And I was bow fishing for gar, and my buddies and me like to go bow fishing for gar and carp and stuff like that. And I needed some target practice. Well, I knew there was a lot of irrigation ditches up there that farmers use, and the river was up. And I figured I'd just go in there and shoot whatever's swimming in those irrigation ditches and them holes. And I got about dark, and I was still living up at the farm next door to my mother. And she says, when you coming home? I said, I'll be home here in a little bit. The mosquitoes are starting to eat me up. And I loaded my stuff up in my Ranger I had at the time, my Ford Ranger. And I was about 120 miles north of home. So I had about a good 2.5 hour drive. And I started driving back home, and I had my GPS, and I come out of Fairfield, and I saw a sign that says Enfield. And I was like, I know where I'm at. Go right through Enfield and North City. And I'll get right back to where there's this 4-way, and I can get back on Interstate 145, not 145, Interstate 45, and ride it all the way to Harrisburg. I don't know how to get home, so I shut my GPS off. And I get right outside of North City, and they rolled the sidewalks up at night. Same with Enfield. It's a small town of about 700 people. And I was coming up to this little 4-way stop where Interstate 1 and 40 and Route 14 intersect, and it's a 4-way stop right in the middle of the country. And I'm coming up on this place called Williams Insurance House at the 4-way, and it's just nobody's out running except for the farmers at this point. I start to slow down as I'm coming up, and I see the shadow run behind the insurance house. And I thought it was a deer because it looked to be about the size of a fawn or something. And I start to slow down because I'm not in the mood to hit a deer with my truck. That little truck of mine, it'll obliterate the front end, and I'm a poor farmer. I can't afford a truck. So I go to slow down, and it's right before the stop sign. So I'm already slowing down for the stop sign. And this thing goes down in the ditch, comes back up out, runs across a 2-lane blacktop right in front of my truck, and clears the ditch on the other side and takes off into this soybean field. And I hit the brakes because I'm like, when this thing run right in front of my truck, it's like all time stopped. It was going in slow motion. I'm like, this is no deer. And then I started, because I've got a brain, my friends say I've got a brain like an encyclopedia. I can remember useless facts about anything. I'm a walking encyclopedia. And my brain went right to Enfield Monster. I sat there for maybe 3 or 5 minutes at that stop sign No cars came towards me or went around me or went in front of me at that crossroad. And I'm like, what did I just see? And I called my mother and I said, Mom, you're not going to believe this. She said, what? What did you see? And I said, I think I saw the Enfield monster. And I described to what she saw. And she said, I believe you did. Then not too long after that, about the next day, I made a post on the Southern Illinois Monsters Facebook page because, this thing is a staple of Southern Illinois history and folklore. It hasn't been seen for 49 years. People need to know that that it's real. And not only that, it is back because it hadn't been seen for 49 years. I wasn't looking. I'm just like, people keep an eye out for this thing. Because if somebody else gets a better chance to get this thing on film, more power to them. If I can give them a place to go look, more power to them, because that's 50 miles north of where I live at the time. I ain't going to get back up there anytime soon. So it got kind of traction. People started sharing it. And then Ryan Paul Tremblay of Monster Radio contacted Jake Gira from the Ropin Network. I never met Jake before in my life, never talked to him. And he sent me the documentary that he did about the Enfield monster. And it was basically set up like comic book style with an animation of the actual creature. And I watched that. And then the final scene, I'm watching it and I'm going through my phone and watching it on my laptop. And I see the thing come through the door and I drop my phone and I'm like, that's exactly what I saw. And I told Jake about it. And then Jake had me on his show literal days after this happened. And to my knowledge, I'm still the only person that's seen this thing in 49 years. And what I told Jake in my description, this thing had like wet elephant colored skin, kind of dark grayish skin. And it had a head on it like an alligator. But what I call pug nose, it had a real short snout like a pug does. It had kind of like an alligator head, but with a really short snout. It had hands on real spindly arms, like really malnourished arms. And it had shoulders, because a lot of the reports say that the arms come out of its chest, straight out of its chest like this. This thing's arms were out to the side, and as you could tell, this thing had shoulders. And they say this thing has 3 legs. It has 2 legs in the front like we have, but right around where the tailbone is a extra 3 legs, and it's coming around where the tailbone is on this thing. And they say this thing kind of hops or does a hopping motion like this thing. These legs were built for jumping, because if you remember with Henry McDaniel's reports of this thing, it said that this thing cleared 75 feet in 3 leaps. This thing was not leaping. This thing was running. And this thing, all I can equate to it, it looked like how one of the velociraptors in Jurassic Park run. Had its hands drawn up like this, and it had the third leg on the back end of its tailbone, where I say where its tailbone is, was drawn up like how a possum draws its tail up whenever it runs. And it was just booking it across that 2-lane highway.
Wow. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I don't suppose you had a dash cam running at the time, huh?
No, I used to in that truck, and then it quit working, and I never thought to ever get one again.
Wow. Just think of the footage you could have if you had that.
The thing is, I had my cell phone sitting right there in my phone holder. All I had to do was reach up and hit the camera and turn that camera on to video and hit that recorder, and I could have had it. But I was so awestruck by this thing. I'm just taking in what I'm seeing. I'm in shock. You don't think to grab your phone and take a photograph unless you're totally warped and have no human emotion. I expect someone to get a photograph or a video, but it's something you're seeing for the first time. You're going to try. Your mind is more worried about trying to process what it is that you're seeing than getting a camera out and taking a picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, people that haven't been in that situation don't realize that. Well, let's say, okay, if you're driving down the road, and how many people, like, I think almost every single person out there has seen a deer cross the road in front of them, right? Now put yourself in that
Several times
position
with me.
of
I've hit 2 with the new truck already.
exactly. So put yourself in that position. Anybody out there that hasn't had something like this happen, if you're driving down the road and you see a deer cross the road, now while that deer is crossing the road in front of you, get a picture of it on your phone. Just try that. See what happens. It's by the amount of time that your brain processes, oh, it's a deer, I need to slam on the brakes, I need to slow down, and you're going through all of this stuff just for a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And to have the time to get out your phone and take a picture. Now put yourself in the position of something, like this, or a Bigfoot, or any other creature that you can't process, and you're trying to understand, and then think about getting out your phone and taking a picture. It's not that easy. So that's amazing.
And I get a lot of flack from it, and with my my soon-to-be wife and everything, she supports me with this kind of stuff. But she's skeptical, very skeptical of what it is. But she doesn't write off the possibility that these things do exist. It's just, with her, seeing is believing. And she still supports me in this, but she's skeptical of what is being seen and everything. But she told me, whenever I see something with my own eyes, I'll believe it then.
Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it. I mean, like, in all of my encounters, as I said earlier, I've seen some weird things, and I know other people have seen some weird things, and there's no convincing. I mean, I'm not going to ever tell anybody that what I saw was 100% true and that you have to believe it, because you weren't there. You don't know what I've seen. And the same with you. I was not there. I don't know what you saw. And
exactly. It's like how whenever me and my crew, we take in a case, we take them at their word, but we do our own research and we start digging. We'll start putting dragnets out there for people and saying, if you've seen something like this and in the vicinity of this last report, get a hold of us, because we're actually mounting an investigation on it. And we'll put flyers up in gas stations and in libraries and stuff like that. Literally old school paper. Have you seen flyers? And we'll go and we'll canvass around that area. And sometimes we won't have nobody reach out to us. Sometimes the trail goes cold.
That's what you got to do.
Who am I to pass judgment? Who am I to pass judgment whether or not if they're making it up or telling the truth? I'm not there. But, you can kind of ride the fence on it whenever it's one person telling you, but whenever it's multiple people telling the same story, you kind of pay attention. But whenever it's multiple people that don't even know each other, that has seen this thing to the exact T, to the same description to a T, you got to start taking notice.
Very interesting. Now, the one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is we had talked earlier before the show, in that you are a minister, right? Mm-hmm. And you are a very God-fearing man, and very, very religious and stuff. So a lot of people believe that these creatures are, have some biblical ties. They are otherworldly beings and stuff. And I would absolutely love to get your impression on that and what you believe in there.
Let me find it right quick, and I'll tell you why I say that, these things are real, because people are seeing these things, and not only that, they've been seen for thousands of years. Back then they didn't have internet to make things up. They were telling it how they were seeing it. Let's see here. I'm in Genesis 1. I've got my Bible with me. I don't go on a podcast or a show without it. It says, Genesis 1:24 says, it's the sixth day of creation. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. The day before that, he created the birds in the air and the fish in the sea. Everything that I see that you see now, and that what people are seeing whenever it comes to cryptozoology, is God breathed, I believe.
Very good. So, but as far as like, some people have hypothesized that these, Bigfoot beings and stuff are the Nephilim or other creatures in the Bible. What do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Let's see here. See if I can swap over to Genesis 6. Talking about the flood. It's because it talks about the Nephilim in Genesis, in the book of Genesis and everything. They were the children of the sons of God and the daughters of man, which if you've read the book of Enoch, it talks about the Watchers and how they came down and they had children with human women. And that's how the Nephilim was born. But it said that Noah took into the ark 2 of every animal. And whenever it comes to clean and unclean, I forget which ones it were that he took, both male and female, and then he took several others. I don't remember if it was the clean or unclean animal. I can't remember off the top of my head without looking for it, and it'll take me forever to do it. But he took him and his wife and his sons and their families into the ark. And then the heavens opened up and it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But then it took quite a while for the waters to subside. And I believe that the Nephilim was wiped off the face of the earth. I don't believe that Bigfoot is a relic hominid because, and I did this a couple of years ago, and I did this, and it's purely my own speculation and hypothesis. I actually did a character profile for Sasquatch. Because from what I've experienced and from other reports that I've found, that I've built this character profile. I believe Bigfoot, what it is we're dealing with, is an undiscovered great ape. I don't believe it's a missing link. I don't believe it's a relic hominid. You go and I've seen just about everything it can whenever it comes to, because I like, especially whenever I go to a zoo, I like seeing the primate exhibits and I like studying them visually and look at these reports of Bigfoot, and they kind of match up with the mannerisms of primates. Like I'll start off, like I believe that they are omnivorous because there's been reports of Bigfoot going and eating, fish, foraging for berries. And then you look at great apes like chimps, gorillas, orangutans, billy apes, and they're omnivorous. They'll be eating, like bamboo. They'll be eating leaves and fruit that they'll find on the forest floor. But sometimes you look at chimps, and those things will actually cannibalize smaller monkeys. I've seen one on a National Geographic show one time run down a monkey and just start chowing down on it. You look, and another thing, I believe they are they're smarter than what we give them credit for being a primitive creature. I believe that they can make tools and use them, because you look at these chimps that's I believe in the Congo, they actually on camera and orangutans, they're using spears for fishing. Mm-hmm. And not only that, they're using them for fighting amongst each other, do that. And then I believe that they're not monogamous, that they're polygamous, because you look at these great apes, they've got a pack, but they got one alpha and a whole bunch of females. I've had an experience where I actually saw a male Bigfoot that had 2 female Bigfoot with him that I believe I caught, walked up on them. They might be pre or post mating. I'm not sure, but I believe I caught him with 2 of his girlfriends is what I'm calling them. And I call what a group of Bigfoot with the alpha male, and then the group of females, I call the group of females a harem. And I believe that they do have like a spoken language, because you look at these chimps and gorillas, especially whenever I say sign language. Look at Coco, the gorilla that passed away. She knew hundreds of words in American Sign Language to go and actually sign. what's to say that Bigfoot isn't able to go and learn, and not only that, have certain like grunts or hoots or whoops or just hand signs to coordinate whether they're hunting or for communication, like Coco the gorilla did.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just my theory.
No, that's great. I mean, until we can study one and then, get up and close and personal with them, everything we got is just theories. So very cool.
Yeah. And the sad thing is it's going to come down to a body, unfortunately. And and it's going to come down to someone like Rene DeHenden. He was pro kill of these things. I won't kill one unless it's in self-defense, because I'm just hypothesizing that they're an undiscovered great ape. But what if it's a relic hominid? And not only that, you got hoaxers out there. What's to say it's some guy not out there 100 yards in a monkey suit, you shoot him, and then you got a murder charge on your hand and your butt's in prison in an 8x10 cell the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason I carry a gun in the woods for protection, but there's more things in the woods of Southern Illinois to be scared of than Bigfoot. We've got wolves, coyotes, and mountain lions and bobcats. And not only that, we got 3 or 4 variety of venomous snakes with cottonmouths, copperheads, western diamondback and eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, and Rocky Mountain rattlesnakes. So they got introduced to this area. I'm not willing to tango with no snake. Venomous snake is trouble. Non-venomous snake, they keep the rats down, and not only that, they cannibalize venomous snakes. They can stay out there as long as you're not coming in my house. But if I see a venomous snake out there, bam, 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 he ain't got a face no more. Let's take the hide, dry it off, and make a hat band out of it.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, you guys have another event coming up here soon. The Southern Illinois Bigfoot Conference. You're going to be at that. The rest of the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters is going to be there as well.
We're working on trying to get where we can all be there, because it's always been, the majority of the time, it's always been me, because a lot of them have regular jobs. But I'm going to try and get all of the team up there so that way we can actually be there as a whole team and everything. And we'll sign autographs. We'll talk with folks, take pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, it's coming up September 7th of this year in Mount Vernon, Illinois at the Doubletree Hotel. And I'll be speaking alongside the likes of Charlie Raymond, Ron Moorhead, Lyle Blackburn, and an assortment of others, and it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this. I actually tried to do the Southern Illinois Bigfoot Conference back in 2018, 2019. I tried to do it, and it just not getting sponsors and coming out of my own pocket, I wasn't able to make it happen. But I'm proud that another guy picked up my idea and took it and ran with it, and he's actually making it what I was hoping to make it. So I'm very proud of the guy. I'm not jealous at all. I'm very proud of the guy.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Sounds like a great event. I've met and worked with a lot of those guys, Lyle Blackburn and Charlie Raymond, and Ron Moorhead. Yeah. So that's a great group of guys, very knowledgeable, and yourself as well. So it's going to be a great time.
Ron Moorhead's a cut up. I love talking with him, and we don't talk about Bigfoot a lot. We just talk about camping out and hunting. Because he's a big, he used to be a big elk hunter.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, man.
And I told him, I'm always jealous. I call him Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, I'm very jealous of you because I've always wanted to go elk hunting, and I've never gone, and you've gone and killed a couple elk, and I have yet to go elk hunting. I'm jealous of you, Ronnie.
Oh, man. Awesome. Very cool, man. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. I had him on my show a while ago back here now, so very cool. Very cool. All right, man. Well, we have come to the end of another great episode here. I thank you so much for your time. Hopefully everything worked
pleasure.
out. I'm a little worried here because I've noticed that the counter started over when we started at the halfway point when we had that technical issue. So hopefully the first half has recorded and the second half as well. But otherwise, we have a full second half here. That's absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to hopefully the whole thing worked out. But awesome. That's the way technology is nowadays. So you never know. But
Hey, you're talking to a dumb hick. I'm lucky if I know how to work a laptop.
well, you've done very well today. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your stories, and it's been an absolute blast. You're so wonderful, great charisma and great storyteller, and it's been a great show, man.
I appreciate you having a poor country boy on your show, Barnaby, and I've had a blast. I look forward to going and doing some field research with you or meeting you one day. Our paths will cross.
Oh, definitely. I know it, man. I know it. It's great. I will definitely have to come down and check you guys out. So, can you tell everyone again?
We'll feed you.
Oh, well, hey, there we go.
Hey, you leave the house. If you leave this house hungry, it's your own dang fault.
Fair enough, man. Tell everybody one more time where all we can find you. All the information is in the show notes, but for anybody that's just listening, where can we get a hold of you?
You can find me on Facebook under Zachary Stamm. You can follow the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters Facebook page, the Hunt for Shawnee Sasquatch Facebook page, Duke Randall Outdoors Facebook page. I used to have a YouTube channel called Duke Randall Outdoors, but I got locked out of it, so I had to start over from scratch and make another one. It's under Zachary Stamm on YouTube, and if you go there, you'll find a couple shorts of stuff that I do because I'm a farmer and I work for a farming company. You'll find shorts on there from me riding around in the operators' machines and stuff like that. You can go and find a video on there of me actually building a shelter because I actually do like doing camping videos as well. And not only that, I'm a big fan of old time cowboys. You'll find my recreations and cosplays as the rifleman, and that's the same rifle right there that I use for my rifleman cosplay. And you'll find me on TikTok, Stam the Man 1995. I'm a big time old school cowboy fan, like of Hugh O'Brien, Chuck Connors, Gene Barry, on all of those old time cowboys. So I do a lot of those. Follow me on there, Instagram, Duke Randall Official 2.0. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm not hard to find.
Awesome. Very good. I want to remind everyone also go out and check out your DVD. You can get that, send them a message on Facebook. The links again are in the show notes as well. So go ahead and check that out too. Just in case we lost the first half of this episode by any chance. I'm really hoping it's still there, but just in case, we're gonna throw that in there again one more time. So,
and in case we lost it again, $20 a copy of the DVD plus $5 shipping and handling. If you want it personalized, that I don't cost you nothing extra. I'll personalize it any way you want to. I'll autograph it, and it will be sent to you within a week. I try to go and get a bulk order to be shipped out before I go and get like multiple folks and everything because I don't like going to town very much. I'm around people enough, and I'm a hermit, and I like my solidarity. So I try to get at least maybe 5 or 6 orders lined up. So tell your friends, hey, order a copy so that way I can get mine sooner. That will make good Christmas presents. Order a couple of them. I'll give you a deal on them too.
There you go. Sounds
it's
great.
$20 for $20 for one or $30 for two.
Very good. Awesome. Sounds great, man. Well, I hope you sell out and you have to order some more. So
yeah, me too. But yeah, I'll give it a plug again. Check us out, Southern Illinois Monster Hunters on Facebook. If you want to watch some of our old Mysterious Illinois episodes, go check out Duke Randall Outdoors on YouTube, but don't subscribe because I'm locked out of there, and just go in there and check them out and everything, see what we're all about, and then come over to Zachary Stamm on YouTube and subscribe there, so that way you can see all the new stuff that's coming out, because that's my primary YouTube channel now.
I don't think I've had anyone ever on the show tell you not to subscribe to a YouTube channel.
Hey, I'm just trying to go.
I get it. Yep, makes sense. Makes sense. Yep, that's the old one. This is the new one. But Awesome. Very good, man. Well, take care. Thank you so much for being on again. And I look forward to meeting you and hanging out in person sometime.
Yeah, for sure, Barnaby. God bless you, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
You too. Take care, man. All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Hopefully the whole thing recorded. If not, it's still an amazing episode. We start out with the Enfield horror story and the Skinwalker episode. So it's a great show no matter what. But until next time, guys, thank you all for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe his new channel and the Untold Radio Network channel as well. And until next time, guys, I'll see you on the edge.